Welcome back, everyone, and hello to our audience on Zoom. Please find your seats. A small note from Daniel, who announced an event earlier this evening taking place here, a workshop. He wanted me to reiterate that the time it starts at 7, not 7:30. So if you're interested, 7, not 7:30. Before I introduce our featured poets, please remember that we're inviting both our live and live streamed audiences to write poems in response to the Poetry of the Season's featured poets. A call for submissions will open in 2025, and we'll be selecting poetry for our forthcoming anthology of response poems. You can read all about it on our website, as well as our Poem a Month Challenge. If you're not yet a newsletter subscriber, please do go to planetearthpoetry.com and sign up so you can stay in the loop. Our first reader tonight is Cassidy McFadzean. She is the author of 3 books of poetry, Crying Dress, Drolleries, shortlisted for the Raymond Souster Award, and Hacker Packer, winner of 2 Saskatchewan Book Awards and finalist for the Gerald Lampert Award. Cassidy was born in Regina and currently lives in Toronto. Please welcome Cassidy.
Great, thank you so much for having me, to Planet Earth, for bringing me out, to Garth for hosting, to Kieran, everyone else. I'm just gonna set my timer so I don't go over. So I'll be reading from Crying Dress tonight. Chamber music. Ringing in the ear with brutalism and velour, accidental, essential outfits. Show me a building with no facing. The sparrow begging for crumbs rests inside the hollow of your chest. What does it mean to be vulnerable? I don't disguise my raw materials. Sadness is present. Desire is present. Oversharing our worst selves, a ringing in the ears. I could live pressed against your body like a bird or polished stone, brutal in the same basic ways. So the book is organized kind of loosely into the seasons of the year, but it wasn't written chronologically. It was sort of this chaotic post-COVID, moving to Brooklyn assortment of poems. But I realized that a lot of them sort of either reference the seasons or it made sense to sort of organize it to give some order to the chaos. So we're still in winter in these poems. Winter is long in this book. Go sit in the white hot. Before bed, I count teeth slipping out, calculate bodies in the high rise above. As a child who comforted you when you stirred from sleep, did you stand in the doorway, watching softly snoring faces, too terrified to step inside a room? When I'm crying a little or a lot, you run for me the white hot. You were flying home from Tehran. I was bleeding in the bathtub at the start of the next decade. A toast to this and all other odds and eclogues. Was it maggot or magnets? Static or stagnant? No matter, we cherished each fragment clasped to our clavicles tight. You visited the Tower of Silence and returned with copper bracelets. I wore clinking down the Adicula, songbird glory glazed ash white. So there's a lot of what I'm doing in the book. There's a lot of sort of puns and language play and musicality, loose references to things that maybe don't form a coherent narrative, but if you can sort of tune in here and there, maybe there's an attempt towards meaning making being made. So yeah, I'm just sort of having fun with language. This one is called Enfilade Terrible. Cold air cured my melancholia. I keep losing bobby pins down the drain. I run back to the apartment to clip barrettes into my hair. Botero's adult babies sucking all the air. An elephant in the room is something you can only feel. I spend my days pacing the parquet floor. To really understand you, I need to read Junk Space. Affectation, corruption, a flower held and seen. Michelangelo buried his own forgeries, sleeping Cupid in the vineyard. The twisting limbs of Laocoon, wing deep in the winter palace, painting our Trump Leals room within a room within a room. This one I wrote after sorry, I've lost the poem. I wrote down the incorrect. I want to read the poem that I wrote, oh, there it is. After seeing a lecture by Anne Carson at the UT Daniel School of Architecture, where she gave this kind of intense performance where she invited, I think it was after Trump was elected, she invited everyone to share a scream together. So it left an impression for sure. So it's called A Breach of Fresh Air. Sometimes you confuse me with other women scanning our heads in a crowd. I'm not particularly photogenic. The camera makes me self-conscious. I never learned to pose. Wind fills my puffer on the roundabout. I become airborne on the walk over. Skywriting, a classical art form. The professor thwarted foodborne illness but fell victim to zoonotic disease. The randomizer gestures from offstage, a memory misplaced, never arriving, but the waiting is the same, unmoored, as if all of childhood's a dream or simply never was. And she refers to her husband and collaborator as the randomizer, which I really love. My goodness, we're still in winter. Severance. Winter Sundays feel particularly apocalyptic. The weekend spent narrating each terrifying angel. There was a time we could have gone back, but that time has passed, wearing the self-same clothes until pilled and threadbare. One day, my heels stuck to the wooden floor, a coin-sized hole let the feeling in, cold and unfamiliar as a kiss, or a pebble stuck in the heel of my shoe. This is what you've become to me and me to you, the cutout less real than the empty space. There was a time we could have tried again, which we did for a while, and then we didn't. An omnipresent struggle with objectivity, putting on last winter's coat to find the gloves that, missing all this time, no longer fit. The last of intimacy, teased out, as if water from the stone, obstinate. Okay, enough of all those angsty winter poems. This is called It Warms My Heart. Oh, and there's a few references in this poem. I think there was an exhibit on Rubens, or an exhibit that featured Rubens' Medusa that I went to in Toronto. So that makes an appearance, and you'll see what happened with that. And also a reference to the Iranian film director Abbas Kiarostami. It warms my heart. We have reached the time of squeezing, hunkered down for honeymoon season, dressed in our matching puffers. You like driving with your hand on the stick. Would you still love me if I were a snake? Essence for 7 months sobriety. I got you and the goblins, goblets, watching Kiarostami to distract me. Sick to my stomach, I bought some stupid shit. Seersucker threads pinched together. I pluck the feathers from your coat. No photographing Rubens' Medusa. Chaotic good for psychic ills. Inside the lines of our historiated initial, we burrow together like two puffins, rubbing our bills close. It's always humiliating when the museum guard yells at you. Humbling experience. Thanks to Aaron for laughing at all my jokes.
That's why I'm here.
Yesterday, I was walking along, I guess it would be the ocean, the sea, and saw someone swimming, which seemed exciting. I didn't bring my swimsuit, just my giant puffer, so I didn't join them, but I'll read this poem. Lake Baby. Maybe there's a place we can swim, a lake or creek, lagoon to lower our bodies into and bathe. Could we make something happen? Luring in me like the fish we witnessed deep-throating an eel, unaware the clip depicted the carp devoured from the inside out. Didn't your family used to farm wind in a space outside the city? We could stand under the turbines as the blades graze our faces. Maybe there's a gorge or a quarry, somewhere we can find time still to sink into a salt cave, shining with stalactite. Skipping the middle seasons. I think it's spring now, so I'll read in the book in the cycle. It ends in fall, but I'm still in spring. Calyx upheld. It was shoulder season when you cradled my crown in your hands like a purple echinacea with a damaged stalk. Oh, baby flower, you need to fix that stem on your head. I was a mouthful of water you held in cupped hands, my spine climbing ivy. I was wisteria hanging, cosmos, pollen collected under the nail of your thumb. I was bluest snow glory, amaryllis with a broken stake, asters strewn on annex walkways. I was pincushions, Veronica, rain-heavy stone crop. You pressed your lips to my forehead and held the kiss, sipping me, I thought. So just a couple more. I also, yesterday, while I was wandering around, enjoyed going to the little rose garden, I think near a government house, which was really lovely. Even though the roses weren't in bloom, that's okay. It was still really lovely. So this is a poem I wrote about the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, which also has a great rose garden if you're ever in Brooklyn. So this is what a bed of roses feels like. How can we nip this in the bud? It has already grown into a beautiful tree. Sipping rosé, you pointed out, our shadows made a heart shape in the rose garden, like the ending of every Powerpuff Girls episode, a hypnotic pulsating beam. Moments earlier, I found you fingering the centifolia, a rose with 100 frilled petals. It was nice to sniff the hybrids that in April hadn't bloomed, still wrapped in burlap and rope. On my deathbed, I hope I'm not cold. Seated by the fountain, we watched turtles swimming in a pond of lily pads, posited which garden housed the highest concentration of happy souls. Later, a ladybug climbed the curtains, like a blood spot we positioned in the atrium of your paper home. Okay, I think I have time for two more. Bird People, also based on Brooklyn Prospect Park, watching the bird watchers type of poem. Can I still muster a sense of joy, wonder, curiosity? When I was a rising character in another's world, I overheard a father telling his son, back in my day, people didn't travel very normally. When I'm blue, I go and see the bird feeders, the crowd photographing nuthatches and brown creeper, a girl breathing very heavily, that is me, various pine species enclosed in steel cages. Did you feel a greater vitality in childhood? How might one arouse enthusiasm for life once again? No one shares in my nostalgia, the blue smear of acrylic affixed to concrete outside my former quarters. To be a peripheral character in certain circles, a man screeching as a rat skitters between his legs, when sauerkraut was victory cabbage, a certain duplicity, the shovel that clearing the field chips itself on stone. Over time, the edges of my teeth become jagged from grinding against themselves in the night. How I injured my spirit pecking at its form, or was I always of the world and its detritus? I have since acquired a mouth guard, so I'm no longer grinding my teeth. Happy to report. So this is the last poem. Thank you again to Planet Earth Poetry for letting me come out to Kieran. This has been such a joy. I love coming to Victoria, and you have an amazing poetry community here. So this is the title poem, my first ever title poem, Crying Dress. I said you could trace thought processes like a series of intersecting bridges, imagining each fragment opening up the text. You called it Pyreneesian, corridors leading back to the point of origin, teasing a web with a knot at its center. Later, I unwrapped a dress your sister told you to gift me when you were certain you loved me, my crying dress, its ribbons of blue, red, green. You called it triadic, Oscars, ballet, spoken word as directives, love as action, the movement of a body in space, geometric. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassidy. Our next reader tonight is Aaron Kreuter, the author of 5 books. His poetry collection, Shifting Baseline Syndrome, was a finalist for a 2022 Governor General's Literary Award and was shortlisted for both the 2022 Raymond Souster Award and the 2023 Vine Awards for Jewish Literature. His other books include the poetry collection Arguments for Lawn Chairs, the short story collection You and Me Belonging, and the monograph Leaving Other People Alone, Diaspora, Zionism and Palestine in Contemporary Jewish Fiction. His latest book is a collection of 7.5 linked stories, Rubble Children, which he is reading from, launching tomorrow at Camas Books at 7 p.m. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. at Camas Books. Aaron lives in Toronto and teaches at Trent University. Please raise your hands and celebrate Aaron Kreuter. Please welcome him to the stage.
Thanks, Garth. Thanks for coming out. Thanks to Planet Poetry and the whole Planet Earth Poetry crew for putting this together. When I lived in Victoria in 2009 to 2011, me and my friends who were doing our masters at UVic would come here all the time to read. It wasn't here, it was at some cafe a bit north on Fort, maybe. Yes, exactly, yeah. To read at the open mic and to see all the poets. So it's really, really nice to be back here. I'm really thrilled to be reading with Cassidy. Cassidy and I have known each other for a while. And when Cassidy was editor at the Brooklyn Review, she published one of my short stories, Toronto 488. So thank you, Cassidy. I'm going to read from a few different books and some new projects as well. I'll start with reading from my latest poetry collection, Shifting Baseline Syndrome. This is the first poem in the book, and it's called Discarded Novel Openings. Discarded novel openings. We were young and we were reckless, and we wanted to see the ice before it melted. When the power went out, we had nowhere to plug in our vaporizer, so we reverted back to apples, magnifying glasses, conversation. Sam's new dry lips scratched my face and I came, right in my green cords. But wait, I guess I should start at the beginning. After the fall, we spent our days breaking dams, daylighting rivers, freeing chickens, nights warm at the fire, secretly missing television. It was perverse, what can we say? There's no excuse. We wanted to see the collapse happen. We wanted the collapse to happen in our lifetime. The first of many terrible guilts. I am not ready. 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 I am not ready yet. That was the summer we were most alive. Now, marbled with cancer, we wait for the only thing that ever scared us, relief. I mentioned secretly missing television. Television's a very major theme in the book. As you can see, there's a television on the cover. I don't think I'm reading any television poems tonight, though. Okay, so this is a prose poem, as the majority of the poems in here are. I don't know if you've heard, but Phil Lesh, the bass player from Grateful Dead, died today. He's the first major member of the Dead to die since Jerry died in 1995. So I'm dedicating this poem to Phil Lesh, and it is called Trip in a Porta Potty. Last townhouse in a row bordering a suburb of tents, a downtown of hill and stage. Blue walls, sweet cloying disinfectant. The escalator inside you is a thermal vent, is a lake heated to boil, is an eye gone full pupil. Something shifts outside, changing the light, and you're a lone outpost on the moon. You're a coat check girl in her little cubby deep in Marianas Trench. You're trapped under 2 kilometers of glacial ice. The ice is heavy, calm, aquamarine. There's a knock on the door. It's the ice wanting to get in, wanting to scratch you, mark you, gargle boulder potholes into your skin. From far away, laughter. Something shifts. Time forgets itself. Your vertical tub fills with fossils, skeletons, detritus of a trillion spines, a trillion spins, the sweet, heady reek of endlessly proliferating biomass, clacking and jostling. A knock on the door. Time slows to the wind-smoothed peak of a single heartbeat. Remember your breath. Remember your feet on the ground, your skirt bunched at your knees, your hair in its tight summertime bun, the music that waits outside the gray door you will touch as little as possible. Remember to wipe. Release yourself to joy. Outside, something shifts. The world glows blue. You leak everything from everywhere. Thank you. I was walking today thinking which poem will I read for Phil Lesh, and then I was like, oh, that one's pretty good for him. Okay, I'm gonna read one more poem from here for now. This one's called To a Palestinian Cousin. And I wrote this poem when I was 29 years old, as you'll see. To a Palestinian cousin. You don't know me, and I don't know you, but chances are we're both 29, both still waiting for Marita to find us. That's a Leonard Cohen reference. Chances are you, like me, live in New York, Chicago, Montreal, Toronto, somewhere on Turtle Island. Chances are we both eschew meat, are both fans of dawns, though we don't stay up late enough or get up early enough to see them. There is also a chance that none of these chances are true. Well, here we are on either end of a large divide, yet still I call out, still I say, hello, I'm listening. I say, fuck that soldier at the checkpoint, fuck that man with a map and a pen of red ink. I say, I will do all that I can. Aren't we, after all, cousins? Maybe when we're 39, 49, 59, 69, once again on the cusp of some round number, maybe something will change, shift, or worse, collapse, disintegrate. Maybe one day we will hike the land together on trails restored and renamed. We will hike hard mornings and afternoons, drink from streams and wadis, listen with openness to the stories of everyone we encounter, spend the nights by a small fire in the mountain, the coastal plains, the hills, the desert, trying to stay up for the sun, talking. So I wrote that poem when I was 29, and I'm 39 now, and yes, things are definitely worse. So I guess that's a pretty good place to segue into the next book I'm going to read from. I'm going to read a very little section from my new short story collection, which I know is verboten at Planet Earth Poetry, but I'm a little bit subversive. What can I say? So yeah, it's 7.5 stories that are all centered around the Jewish community of Thornhill, which is a suburb north of Toronto, happens to be the suburb I grew up in. And one of the major themes is the major fractures and tensions in the Jewish community, mostly around Israel-Palestine and like being beholden to this Zionist narrative, which a lot of the characters either struggle with or outright reject, and trying to imagine a diasporic existence that's not based on extreme ethnic nationalist violence. So I'm going to read a very, very small section from the longest story in the book, which is called Holidays, Holy Days, Holy Dazed, and it follows 16-year-old Matt through basically his grade 11th year in high school, and the story is structured very much around sort of the secular school-based holidays like weekends, long weekends, PD Day, stuff like that, the Jewish holidays, and sort of the up and down rhythms of being a teenage stoner in 2003 Thornhill. So I thought this would be an appropriate passage to read. This takes place on Halloween. Halloween, and the world gets to try something else for a day. In Matt's parents' garage, they turned the pumpkin Friedman bought at Sobeys into a bong. Matt and Friedman knifed a hole in the top, scooped it clean with kitchen spoons as everyone stood around on the bare concrete. Todd, who was wearing a lab coat, carefully, with doctor-like precision, made the incision for the Billy piece and jimmied it in. They used the hose for water. Friedman went inside for some ice cubes. Matt got to go first. He placed his entire face into the pumpkin. It was dark, wet, cold, reeked of autumn. After adjusting his face to snug it in as much as possible, he slapped the pumpkin. He was ready. Joan, dressed as Jimi Hendrix, her electric guitar slung on her back, lit the bowl. The orange hide of the pumpkin was too thick for the sound of bubbling to come through, but weaving tendrils of smoke escaped from where Matt's face and the pumpkin's jagged, fleshy edge weren't creating an airtight seal. Matt kept his face in the pumpkin for 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds. Joan's lighter still flaming the bowl, everybody cheering and stomping and losing their collective minds. Eventually, Matt pulled his face up, smoke escaping from his mouth and nose. His hair mussed, orange flesh streaked on his cheeks. Matt hacked out unending mushrooms of smoke. The garage gone apeshit. Banana split with extra fudge, out of orbit apeshit. A little before dawn, standing under the gazebo at Hilldale Park after egging Vice Principal McNichol's house, Matt would vomit orange, flecked with pieces of chocolate, flecked with pieces of candy. October was over. Thank you. Apologies to Planet Earth for being subversive. Hopefully I'll be allowed back in the future. Okay, I thought I'd read some new poems. I'm writing towards a new collection right now, which is called A Logging Road to the Cosmos, which is about ecological destruction and having a good time at the end of the world. Maybe not. Okay, I'll start with this poem. It's all prose poems. I've been really writing a lot of prose poems. I love the rhythm. I love the rhythm and the pattern you can get going in a prose poem. This one's called The Golden Age of Malls. We lived in the golden age of malls. We knew how payphones and elevators worked. We knew stairs and hallways, security doors and sunken arcades. We knew what order to browse the 3 CD stores, which jeans were where. We knew the movie theater's secret alcoves, the department stores, the food courts. We knew how the muffins were made. On Saturdays and Sundays, there were hundreds of us, thousands, minerals populating a choppy sea. But then management, in all their drill bit wisdom, declared war on us, declared enclosure, hired more guards, installed ultrasonic devices shrieking distress to our teenaged hearts. So we dispersed. We grew up. We turned to pixelated carts, knocks on the door, cardboard factories and their annual profit reports. Now, of course, the malls are pop-up roller rinks, funeral homes, discount mattress stores on abandoned third floors. And soon enough, the species off installing no loitering signs at the mining shaft entrances of distant nebula, the crumbling malls will become home to new life. Multicolored galaxies of moths, corals of bees, tyrannies of fern and fox, truly a new golden age. And I'll read this shorter prose poem, which is called Moods. Moods are also a preoccupation in this new collection of poetry. I haven't yet, but I'm going to write a poem that's going to be called something like, Bad Moods of Famous War Criminals. I've never quite phrased the title that way, and I think that's going to be it. Yeah. Okay. Moods. My moods are a vein of amethyst in northern Ontario rock. My moods are a grove of white pine saplings swaddled in sunlight. My moods are a rainstorm in January, a bumper crop of black walnuts, storm runoff polluting unimpeded the lake of myself. My moods are a seasonal algae patch that, if not constantly monitored and controlled, could contaminate the drinking water of a mid-sized Midwestern city. My moods are a backcountry shoreline, refreezing and remelting throughout the course of this strange winter. They are glaciic. They are rivers bursting into free fall. They are wilderness corridors tunneling under crumbling highways, connecting abandoned forests of listing skyscrapers. My moods are of this tilted and tilting planet, and so are yours. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. I'm going to read one more poem back to Shifting Baseline Syndrome. And this poem is called Cousinage, a Meet Cute. Cousinage is a word I found, it's like a French word. It's not really used very much. It's actually an English word too, but I don't think we use it at all. And just literally means the state of being cousins. And I sort of deploy it in this book as a way of like, saying all life is related. We're all cousins. It's sort of an ecological first principle. And it's Cousinage, a Meet Cute, sort of tying into the television theme. Cousinage, a Meet Cute. We first met at the airport. You were arriving, I was departing. Well, no, that's not true. We met at the docks. You had a snow globe of the shtetl on your back. I had a journal of poetry written in Yiddish, Judeo-Arabic, Ladino, biblical, and military Hebrew, all in my worst Rashi script. Okay, that's not exactly how it happened. We met at a family reunion, did the math, discovered we were 18th cousins, 4th or 5th removed. We threw exactness to the wind, joked that at least we weren't 17th cousins, fell in love over Montreal cheese bagels and obscure rock and roll. Fine, you caught me. That's a lie. The truth, we met in the Mech parking lot. We met outside the walls of Jericho, ready to defect. We met outside the cave, you sapien, I Neanderthal. Your brother had just killed my parents. We ate spaghetti and made up stories about the stars. We met behind the shopping mall's loading dock, our forest selves sick with horror. We met at the dawn of the Upper Silurian. You were a fresh-jawed fish. I was a giant scorpion, all elbows. We met on the shore. You still tasted of salt, slick and briny, were still wobbly on new legs. I was the biggest tree you've ever seen. I'd come out of the bath a few eons early to get dinner ready. We met at a deep-sea vent some 4 billion summers ago. First cousins at last, finally ready to subdivide. From there, things get difficult, if you know what I mean. Some arms of the family just have a better sense of life's dining room table. The farther out along the endless river delta we go, the less likely our encounter. Yet everywhere we look, the spark from that first meeting, the mitochondria slipping into the soft walled eukaryote, the smashing of glass, the groaning of the mantle, the asteroid and the oven, the pipeline and the smokestack, the iceberg and the volcano, a handmade guitar named the 6th extinction, the web in the high corner above our bed as we tell for the trillionth and final time the story of our love. Thank you.